and when you choose. Today's the day where I do my official thank you to Sarah for getting out of her own way and seeing the potential in something that isn't hers. And to absolutely getting out of her own way and sharing Magical You with her trusted friends, practitioners. Yeah, my heart is, I'm emotional. What you've done, Sarah, is absolutely amazing. I know, I work with consciousness, I work with what presents, I try to do that more and more every time. So you presented yourself and I could say, yeah, well, that's what's supposed to happen. However, it took somebody to get over their ego and do everything that you've done. And I cannot thank you enough for this opportunity to share me, Robin, and Magical You with the people here and the people from last week. Thank you so much. And everybody, yay! Let's get her embarrassed.
I'm receiving gratefully.
All right.
Thank you very much. You're welcome.
Yes, thank you. So today, this is the second training for Sarah's group. I'm calling you guys, last week and this week, the Magical You Trailblazers, because that's what you're doing. As you know, Magical You was called Fast Track for Kids, and it had a very nice life for about 3 years, but it petered out and it went to sleep for a while. And then it jumped off and then Robin popped into my life and rebranding started, rebranding happened. And this is where we changed from Fast Track for Kids into Magical You. And so these trainings are the first Magical You trainings I've actually done. And to be doing these for you, for the people at the level that you're at with your NLP and all the other stuff that you've done, this I would say is probably the highest level of consciousness with the participants that I have done. And I'm so grateful. And already I see how you're taking this as trailblazers and you're starting to do stuff with it yourself. Now, this is what I have been wanting since I created Fast Track for Kids. I do not work in the field of children. I'm a bit too old to have children, and that situation escaped me, well, with choice. So in many, many ways, you are my arms and my legs out into the world, because you're in the area, you're in the field of children, education, and more, and I am not. So you understand children more than I do. You'll understand the communication, how to work with children more than I do. And so my job is to hold the space for you guys to be the best Magical You practitioners you can become. And I will stand on my head to support you doing that. I already am in many, many ways. What I've done already is I've created a Facebook page, which is called Magical You Graduates. And the first set of people from last week are already in that group. So after today, when you've completed this training, you will be invited to the graduate page. And this is where we can share quite openly at a certain level of consciousness what you're experiencing. If you're struggling, you can find a partner to work with. And I will be able to do Facebook Lives and help you with anything that you need to be helped with. It will only be open to people who have done trainings. So I hope you all join and also fully participate. We've already done one Facebook Live and it was really quite extraordinary. So yeah, I am going to ask you to please honor yourselves by taking this training. Because in so doing, what you're actually doing is you're putting yourself out in the world to help change the world through the children that you're going to help, to give them a voice, to allow them to hear themselves, to understand themselves more than they've understood before, and also with the parents, so that the parents can understand their children more than before, or at a different level of consciousness. As you know, kids are coming in different. They're wired differently. They can already come in they've already come in at being able to use technology. Why is that? Because we all struggled, or I definitely struggled, learning technology. So we put all of that in place. And there's enough of us put that in place that new people come into the world and they can just do that stuff. So they have come in to fly right past us. However, what we have is the experience and the wisdom of having learned things in a slower way, maybe an old-fashioned way. So I was given information years ago that my job was to help people with fear. And I thought that was, and then I realized it was more than that. It was to help incredibly sensitive people work with their fear and navigate the world, because that's exactly what I was and what I am to some degree. So it's vitally important for me to give a voice to those children coming in that are wired differently, that are here to change the world, but they don't have the experience, and they need us to hold the space for them while they understand or navigate their own world and fly right past us. When I heard this about that, that was one of my reasons for being here. My natural inclination was to say, well, I'll be jealous. I won't want to do that, you know, wow, get better than me. But it's really interesting. There was not one shred, not 1 gram, not 1 ounce of jealousy as I understood what I'm here to do. And so please, what I ask you is to take and honor yourself, and to take this workshop, not just as another workshop, not just something that, you know, okay, this is a good idea because Sarah said so. It's just to know that you can affect the world, and you can affect the world through play. So this isn't just a workshop. This is going to help you change the vibration of the world through these children that you're going to help with Magical You. And with Magical You, the way that you perceive it and can adapt it and use it to fit in with what you're already doing. So I honor you. Any questions, or shall we just get on with it? Okay. So you've all got your cards this week. Last week we had a bit of a issue with that. Yes. So here we go. This is this is your box. And as you know, this is our character You. This is Magical You. Now You is a U-shaped vessel. And this U-shaped vessel sometimes gets overflowing. But in making You, what I did, I made Magical You without color, without gender, without clothes. So I can't help calling Magical You a him, but I did this because I wanted this to be a being rather than a person. And what you'll notice with Magical You is that Magical You is in every card. So if the character does not change. So when a child connects with you, they are connecting with you, going on that journey and every stage of the game. It's vitally important for me when I'm working with an adult, maybe the parent of a child, that they understand the work that I'm doing. And I am working with subconscious programming. And subconscious programming is that stuff that is going on unconsciously, sometimes consciously, but it's the stuff that we find so difficult to change because it's become programs, responses, and behavior patterns. And so when I work with parents, once I start to explain what I'm going to do, the first thing a parent will do, especially a mum, is jump into judgment of themselves and being a bad mother. They go into guilt and I should have or I shouldn't have. So what I like to do is to preempt that. And you can see on the back of your box, here's you. And you has got all this subconscious programming in place, which can be overwhelming. But it's also about what you think. It's not necessarily about what happened to you, who did what to you. It is what they think happened. And when an adult or a parent understands where I'm coming from, and I preempt it, the guilt doesn't come up. So it's very important to kind of get this for yourself. If you look at the training video that you all have access to, you'll understand it a lot deeper and you'll be able to create your own explanation to share with the people that you're going to work with. So I like to explain to parents that there are several truths. One will be the truth of the child, and one will be the truth of the parent, based on wisdom and hindsight. They don't match, do they? They do not match. And so I think it's very important that the parents get to understand this, that they are coming from a place of wisdom and how they see things from the place where they're at now. But when you're a child, you don't get that. And so what we're working with Magical You is the truth of the perception of the child, because that is their truth. And a child does not want you to tell them how to be. They're kind of used to that. They want to be met at their level of truth, to be accepted there and allow themselves to navigate their way out of that, which is what we do with the game. So being able to explain to an adult the difference between their truth and a child's truth, that it's okay to have both truths, but if you want to help a child change, you have to drop into the vibration of the truth that they are holding. And that alone, in my opinion, allows change without even the game. Because when you're in a position, when you're in a vibration of listening and open and curious, they get the vibration of that and it's like, whoa, okay, suddenly there's choice. But of course we've got Magical You, so we can do way more than that. But we're doing it with them, for them, in what works for them. So that's your box. So now in your box, you've got these different colored cards. Perhaps, Robin, you could share the screen and just show everybody how their cards should be set out, please. And if your cards aren't set out already, please do that. So you'll see down at the bottom here, you've got the negative cards, the red cards. I always have those off to my extreme left. Now you might want to have them all neat and tidy like this, but I also like to have them more random they're set out like this so you can see them quite easily. One thing I do say to adults is if you're playing the game and the child that you're playing the game with throws the cards down and they get a bit mixed up and messy, don't tidy up, mum. Just allow the cards to be where they are. The child will know exactly where that card's gone. So if the red card ends up in the green section, the child knows. They're playing computer games all day long, right? They know everything. So we've got the red cards down on the left-hand side. And then above that, and that's how do you feel? Above that, we've got where did it happen? And those are the yellow cards. Across from the yellow cards are the green cards. And this is how would you like to feel? And then down at the bottom, the green cards is what do you need? What do you need to let go of those emotions that happened in that place? And then down bottom right are the blue cards, and that is how would you prefer to feel? So those are our stages. Thanks, Robin. So the colours of the cards are not important to a child. They're important to us because it helps us pick them up quickly and put them back into their little stacks. So now let's talk a little bit about the cards. On the training video, you will see that I talk about every card, but for the purpose of training, I'm just going to share with you a few deviations to the cards that we have. And I've discovered these extras, let's call them, by playing the game. When you're playing a game, you've got to get creative. And if a child comes up with something, you're like, ooh, which card is that? Or we haven't got a card like that, you get creative. So I've learned these extras by playing the game with children in training and especially on myself. So let's see what we've got. There's a couple of cards in the red section. And this is different and left out. If those cards are chosen, what's a great conversation opener is, so which one is you? And chances are it's this big one, but you've asked them a question and they can give you an answer. And all of a sudden they feel quite good because they got the right answer. But then who are these guys around here? So they will probably know internally, but they might not have thought to specify that or to even acknowledge it to themselves. So it's very interesting to know for you and for them who these guys are around here. It could be members of their family. It could be kids at school. And of course, what it's doing, it's opening you up to finding out more about this situation that's going on for them. You'll see different is a negative card. And generally this is the little client. During the game, what can happen is this card changes from being a negative card to a positive card as they understand that being different is actually quite special, unique, and it's something they want to be and are now safe to be. So you can, if you remember this kind of stuff, and you can suggest that. Of course, nobody is ever to project what we want onto a child, but it is a suggestion. It's like, yeah, I'm different now. And that is a very empowering thought for them to go from this frowny different to a smiley different. A card that is coming into its own for me And I don't think this is really relevant yet for children because they're not old enough. But for an adult, lonely, what's that part of yourself that you've kicked out? What's that part of yourself that you don't love, that you're not accepting? What is also, I would suggest to you, is you might want to try playing a game by yourself, on yourself, by yourself, and using this as the name of your game to see if there is a part of you inside that is lonely, that did get left behind and is looking to be upgraded into the person who you are now. When I did this on myself, it brought buckets of tears, and the results were astonishing. So lonely. What I would say to you also is, and I know this is, I remember from Sarah teaching me NLP a million years ago, and she said, you know, if I tell you don't think about blue elephants, what are you going to think of? So here, don't look at the words. I know you will, all right? But what I want to say is, when you are working with these cards, the cards do the work. The word doesn't do the work. So curiosity is the name of this game. So if a child chooses lonely, don't assume you know what that means. Curious, be interested. What does that mean? And then, of course, many of you have got your NLP skills, and you can bring in that questioning as well. So, lonely also might mean one thing to me and something different to somebody else. Now, with a child, it's really, really great. It's when you ask them a question like that, is, you know, so where do you feel lonely, or what's lonely? And they give you an answer. Wow, that's interesting. Oh, I never thought. But they gave you an answer that impressed you, and it will open up the way to them for them to communicate more fully with you. We all like to be right, don't we? So when you allow them to be right, or you be curious about them, wow, I never thought of it like that. Wow, how does that work? So another card in this red section, embarrassed. This is typical of the word. It's a very big word, and many young children can't read this. So it's very much open to interpretation. So embarrassed, there's a blush here. So yeah, embarrassed, makes sense. It could also be pressure. I've got a headache. One little girl in Malaysia, she could not read this because it was not her language and she was too young anyway. And when I asked her what this was all about, she said, I've got a headache. So the headache was information, pressure in the head. This also could be a bit of shame, could be guilt. So again, how do I know this? Because I played the game and I didn't stick with these words. These words here are for adults or big kids. So the others are quite straight. Oh, scared. This is a cool one. And this is a great one because you can see there's lots of tentacles and stuff on the outside. You know, so is that fear coming in, or is it wanting to get out? Whose is it? Use the cards. Get curious, playful. No wrong answers. So then we move to the yellow cards. So this is where did it happen? So we've got home, which is obvious. Things can happen at home. Also, what I do like to make adults aware of when I'm working with their child is that, you know, sometimes the adult has to take responsibility and know that they can be part of the child's problem from the child's perspective. And so, especially if you're doing trainings, you get to that level where you are doing training, is sometimes it is important to let the parent know that they have to get big enough to step back and allow themselves to be part of the problem. I hated my mom for some situations when I was a little girl. Doesn't mean to say I hated her. I just hated that situation. So if a child says, "Well, I hate my mom," or the teacher's stupid, that's how they're feeling in that moment, and it can pass when it's addressed. So if a child in a session with a parent says, "Well, it's about you because blah blah blah," you have to accept that as being truth in the moment. And when you can accept that, then it can change. No explanations, no trying to address it or work it out. Just play the game. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, I'd not thought of that. Yes, Sarah.
I'm kind of playing this in my head. I'm doing this as you're talking, so I'm playing the game as we're looking, and I'm picking the cards that are right for me. And I just wonder, just with the way the world is now, that perhaps, and obviously I know we have the blank cards, but I just wonder if at some stage, if you ever kind of went back, was to also have the internet as where something happened.
So that's a very interesting point, and I think this is really valid. And what we've got in the green cards is, which again, this it gets creative. Here is listen to, and we've got a tablet and a phone with blank screens on the floor here. So it's not exactly what you've mentioned, but it really is. So this is one of the things that blanks communication between.
Yeah, I was thinking more about if you look at where something happens. I think there's an awful lot of bullying online. There's a lot of, obviously, predators online who are grooming children, and particularly at the moment, there's a huge, paedophile rings have been brought down all over the place. And I'm just, when I looked at those cards, I'm not suffering from bullying online or anything like that, but it was like I was looking for where my situation is happening at the moment. And I know I'm an adult, but then I just realized that actually, because both my kids are online as well, that and having a conversation yesterday about even really little kids, we're talking 6, 7, who start to use social media too early, that a lot can happen there. And it's not necessarily friends, it's not people, it's like something that's beyond. It's such an abstract thing, the internet, that none of those for me felt like they were right. And I think it was almost like I didn't even know what to write on that. But anyway, it was just as it came into my head, I just thought I'd share that, if that's okay.
And that's brilliant. And that's exactly what's going to happen to this game. So you've mentioned that. We've all got that now. We've all got that information. And we can all bring that with us in the game. And what the 2 new cards are, Magic card and the Brave card. So we're adding to the cards as we find a need for them, while keeping the game. We don't want a card for everything, because then it's just too complicated. But if that presents itself, it will be very, very interesting, and everybody keep us posted, And in the meantime, what you can do is you could use one of the cards we've already got and put a sticker on for something else. Or, as you say, Sarah, bring in a blank, because if you're understanding the situation, or you're with the child and you start to understand what their stuff's about, then of course you can open up that possibility. Thank you. Brilliant. Love it. So, yeah, so, okay, so we got two cards here. We've got school and learning, two totally different things. Learning often happens in school, sometimes it doesn't. But we felt the need for two different cards here. Family one, this is arguing families. Very, very interesting one. If somebody chooses this card, find out who are these characters. Don't assume that's dad. It could be this, the angry stepmother. Who is this? Which one is you? And it more than often is this one, but it's not necessarily so. So if you ask the question, you're getting it, their interpretation, they're getting clarity, and you're getting information to help them. And you can see here, they've spat out the little dummy on the floor, and that's a really unhappy little baby. And that will change. Bullying, which one is you? More often than not, it's them. But what kind of bullying is it? Is it verbal? Is it physical? And who's doing the bullying? How many are doing the bullying? And also, I have found out just on one occasion, two occasions, that this was my client. And they were not happy about it. They were not happy about it. But of course, what often happens is that they've experienced that, they've learned it, they copy it, and they do it, whether they like it or not. So again, don't assume that this will be them, and find out what does that bullying mean. One little story I had was a little boy. He chose this card, and his mum was in the background, and she went ballistic. Because I said, "Who's this?" He said, "It's Daddy." He's like, and she's like, "No, Mummy, that's when we play fight." So it was a really positive card. Again, curiosity. Don't think you know anything. Let the kids show you, and let the game show you. This card also is coming into its own. This is generally about something physical. It could be hospital, death, illness, whatever. But also in my own experience, this is bashed and bruised. This might be more for an adult, well, where did it happen? This is about feeling bashed and bruised. It's all over. So just giving you that in your awareness, because each time a child or a client connect with this card, it's because they've had to go inside to get the information. And so the more times we can get them to go inside and access the information, the closer we are to allowing them and helping them to release it. We're unburying it, let's say. That makes sense? Okay, so then we move to the next bunch of cards. And again, we've got listen to. Another one, which one's you? And often it's this one. Who do you need to listen to you? What do they need to say? And very, very often working with adults now, is the older you still bullying the little younger you? Nagging, right? Does anybody here not nag themselves? So this is a very interesting one, and it's to unravel that ball of string between your big self and your little self. It's a wonderful thing to do. Here we've got family two. You can see dummy's back in the baby's mouth, everybody's smiling. One thing you might want to think about doing is you can always get the child to do a swap. If they're holding on to this, is well, how's about we bring this in? A child doesn't need to understand it. We do. It's like, well, that's not possible, blah, blah, blah. A child just needs an opportunity or to be offered a choice. They're like, yeah, that's a cool idea. So don't think that you have to have the answers for them. Just offer them a choice or another option. And what child wouldn't want to swap that over? This card, I don't know one session that I have done where this card has not been chosen. Most kids can't read that word, but they all see this and they all want it. Does that mean the parents aren't supporting them? No. It means that in some area they don't feel supported, or they're confused, or something's just not going the way they want it. So this is a brilliant, brilliant card. And for you to be able to help them understand, and for them to be able to express something that they perhaps didn't even know could be expressed, or they weren't even aware of. From my own experience of being a little thing, I didn't understand. I didn't know about emotions. I didn't know I could talk about how I felt. Nobody asked me how I felt, so how would I know that? I didn't have the vocabulary. And I think many children, even now, they're way more sophisticated than I was. They still don't have that vocabulary. But if it's brought into their awareness, then they have it. And one of my favorite stories is about this card. Now, this is a blue card, so it's how do you want to feel? But it also can be, what do you need? So this card can go between green and blue. A little girl that was starting school, the idea that she had to go every day, things started to look a bit different. And she started to act up, play out, cry, make a fuss. She was an only child, loved by her mum. So her mum dropped into that of recognizing the trauma or the drama of that and getting quite uptight herself, trying to help her little girl deal with going to school. So she had a bright idea. She said, well, why don't you take you to school today? And so they went through the cards and the little girl chose safe. So they popped that in her little bag and off she went to school, and the day went fine. Little girl comes home, yep, no problem. The next morning, what does mum do? Hello. She starts going on like, will you be all right today? Doing, you know, like, let's bring that up again. And the little girl picked up the cards and she says, Mummy, you need this one. So you can see how completely amazing that is, that it opened up a new level of vocabulary. And it was almost like she wasn't being cheeky. She was playing the game, and mum was gobsmacked and she said, absolutely, you're right. So these cards will open them up, give them a vocabulary that they didn't have before, and also the understanding that this language is completely acceptable and it's okay. And all the blue cards, they're quite self-explanatory. And as I say on the training video, I go through every card. So go back to that every now and again, because I share all sorts of information on there. But now the only cards that we've got left are the 2 blanks and the magic. So children being children, they're always going to come up with something that we've not thought of, or as Sarah says, a situation, and there isn't a card for it. So we have 2 blanks, only 2 blanks. You can always create more. So make sure you've always got post-its around, and you can create a card and make that special for them. In any area of the game, you can create a card for them. They can write it, you can write it, they can draw it, whatever, depends how much time you've got to play. And then we have Merlin the Magician. This card, the magic card, is like a wild card or a joker. And you can use this at any point where the child is stuck, if they don't want to shift. You can bring it in as an extra. It has a purple back, but I always keep it close to the blue cards, so it's in the positive emotions at the end. And what's really great about this card is if, say for instance, a child is stuck and they can't or don't want to shift, there's a reason for that, is you can always make the suggestion to bring in some magic. So what is magic? It's whatever they believe in. It could be a superhero. It isn't. Your job is to find out what is their magic, what is magic for them. And Robin, could you share that second file? So in my own experience, just very, very recently, I was playing this game and I play it in my head because I can do that because I know the cards intimately. And as I was playing the game, and I do believe it was my lonely game, I got to what do I need? And what I needed was a hug. And so I asked myself, okay, Jazz, so who do you need a hug from? And I actually needed a hug from God. I needed some confirmation of the work that I was doing in the world, because I'm always pushing the envelope. So I needed a hug from God. So I'm like, well, there's no card for that. But then I got creative and it's like, well, okay, so this can be God. Magic could be God. And then as the days passed, you can see on this file here, is I started to see the potential of this magic card. It can be the higher levels of consciousness. It can be the universe. It can be something that the child believes in that maybe is religious or spiritual. It can be something as simple as a superhero, but also it can be potential, possibilities, and it can be also the impossible. You think about kids playing computer games these days, they're always doing the impossible. How does that work? But they do it. So this can be their magic. And I have no doubt that as you start playing with this card, you will find other uses for it. Thanks, Robin. So what is really, really great, the best way to use this card is physically. So if they're stuck, is you help them with the phrase. And right at the end, say for instance, they're stuck around letting go, angry, frustrated, and lonely, and those cards are lined up there, is they physically take their magic that they've described to you, and they physically throw it at the stuck section and clear the energy. So we all know that when we clap, we bang anything, we disperse negativity. So that's the purpose of this. It also gives them something to do. It's empowering, and they are choosing what to do, how much strength they can bang it on the table. And when I'm working with adults online, what I've noticed is a book like this and a great crack is enough to shift the energy. And one last thing. With the cards, what we found was that sometimes a child has a lot of anger and they'll release a certain amount of it, but they can often have a belief or a feeling that being angry or holding on to anger makes them strong, important, and powerful, because they see that on the TV, in videos. They might see mom and dad arguing, and that the one that shouts the most, the one that's the most angry, might win. And they will get an idea that being angry to some extent is very useful. Well, as we know, anger is just anger and can cause a lot of disruptions. So what we did was we came up with these two cards, which is strong and brave. And again, is, so how would you prefer to feel? Do you want to hold on to that anger, or would you rather feel strong with the world at your back and brave as you step into whatever it is they want? Which would you rather? Okay, so I've not described all the cards, but these are the ones with more meanings that mean a lot to me. As I say, the more you play, the more you'll see what these cards can represent. Any questions?
Just to let you know, we're at 1 hour right now.
Okay, brilliant, thank you. Any questions? Let me ask Mike a question, because he's been playing with his cards a lot. Or quite a lot. Have you come up with any other definitions for the cards, Mike? Yet?
So other names that are emotions that came up for the card that came up. Not that I came up for it for myself, but trying to remember. Not off the top of my head.
Would you like to share what your 1-year-old, which card your 1-year-old chose for you?
Yeah. My 1-year-old daughter comes up to me and without blinking says, "Dad, that's you. That's you, Dad." And she says, "That's also Granddad. That's Granddad," as in my dad. And
and is it true?
She did the same for my wife. Picked up a different card, said, "That's you, and that's your grandmother or her grandmother. That's her mom." So she was picking out ancestral patterns. A 1-year-old.
Right? But how amazing, how intuitive are they? And they've got something to verbalize.
I just say, because Mike, I don't know about your daughter, but I know your son, when I first met you, he was picking up books for you to read. So your children are incredibly special in terms of guiding you. So that's brilliant to hear your daughter's following in the same footsteps.
Yeah, they're constantly testing me.
Testing you, absolutely keeping you on your toes. I think we've got a future trainer there.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I'm just going to do is I'm going to set out the cards. I mess them up a lot. And then I'm going to give you a demonstration of how this works. So let me just give you a couple of minutes, please. Susie, do you have your card set out there? Pardon? You need to unmute yourself.
Yeah, my computer's acting very weird. I have the card set up out behind me.
Okay, great. If you could bring them so that you can see them, it would be helpful. Please.
Yeah, let me move my computer over there so I can see them.
What a mess I made with my cards. One thing that I haven't spoken about is the stones. And in your set, you've got 2 stones, purple and turquoise. And we use these, we call them special stones or magic stones. And we use these to do a physical release. And how does that work? This is part of the governing meridian. And from the governing meridian, so it runs from here and it runs all the way down to the base of the spine, to the coccyx. And from there, there are hundreds and hundreds and probably thousands and thousands of energy channels. And they run out to all the different organs in the body. And so when we have, through the game, found out how the child feels, where it happened, what they want to do with that, is their intention and the magic in the stone, or even in their fingertips. Running the stone along their governing meridian will send out those messages down those hundreds and hundreds of energy channels to where the blockage is being held and disperse it. So it's a cool thing to do, but no, it's not just done for fun. It actually, that's why when you're doing the releases on yourself, you feel stuff, because whatever it was that was stuck there is releasing and flowing. So there's a lot of reason for doing that. Yes, Colette?
If the child's very small, would you run it down the back of the spine rather than
Yeah.
get the child to do it?
Great question. So you can use the stone in many, many ways. You can roll it. They can, if they can, it's good for them to do this for themselves because it's empowering them. However, you can run it down their spine. So from the top of the spine down to the base of the spine, you can do that for them. They can also, if they choose, to get a favorite toy and run it down the back of the toy. When they've connected to being you and taking you or being you going on the game, they're connected to it. So energy just goes where the attention is. So that intention will release it, whether you're using a toy or you're physically using it on a child. And as you say, Colette, you know, if the child is very, very small, it's probably a lot easier that you do it on them. And also in level 2, which we'll talk about a little bit later, is that you can also do this as surrogate, but that's a bit down the road when you've got a bit of confidence. Okay, so
Yes.
yes.
So I just wanted to share what I find is that the kids love that movement. I mean, and I find that they want to do it themselves after the game even, and they have some kind of, it feels supportive to them to do it. So it's just been so interesting to notice that. And Colette, I just did a session with a 2.5-year-old not too long ago, and she didn't know what to do when it came to the stones. So her mother did it first for herself as the child, did it, and then the child immediately when she saw her mother doing it, it's like, oh, I can do that. And she did it
Yeah.
herself.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I was just thinking about really, really small children, and like a 1-year-old or 18 months,
yeah,
and also autistic children who can't talk.
yeah.
Mm. So let's see, those are great questions, Colette. So let's leave those, put those to the end, and we can talk more about that at the end. So I've invited Susan, and she's kindly agreed to be the guinea pig for this, because it's important that we don't work with, this is for training purposes, we don't work with a live view. Last week we did it, and somebody came up with this huge issue and had a massive, meltdown in front of us. It was very impressive, totally impressive, because it showed us how quickly Magical You can deal with that. But it didn't give me much opportunity to explain what was going on because it was so intense. I just had to sort of get around the circuit so that she felt better and stopped crying and stuff. So it was an amazing thing to watch. But what we're going to do is we're going to unpick the situation. So Susan is very used to Fast Track the Kids and Magical You, and she doesn't mind that we are going to talk about her and pull her in, push her out, and while you understand the process of what we're doing. So it might not be as impressive as last week, but I think you'll understand this a little bit more. So I've asked Susan, I have no idea what she wants to work with, but I've asked her to think about a situation that happened when she was younger, whatever that means, that has still got a charge for her. So what I'd say is, please watch this. I will explain what I think needs to be explaining, but if you've got questions, write them down and you can ask at the end when we've done the demonstration. Is that okay? Yeah. Okay, great. So, Susie, name of your game. You're here to play the game, and
Okay.
if that situation was a game, what would you call it?
Hating nursery school.
Hating nursery school. All right. So I'm writing that down for Susan, and as a game. And when you hated nursery school, Susan, how old do you think you were?
I think I was 4. I might have been 3, but I think I was 4.
About 4. Okie dokie. So I've just named your game for you. Okay. Here you go. Hating nursery school 4. All right. So is there anything that you'd like to share with us about that? Just a few details, what that looked like, Susan?
Well, I have this memory of sorry, my dog is barking. I have this memory of being in this nursery school and lying. We were all taking naps. We had to take naps at a certain time. And I was lying in this mat with my blankie and feeling very alone and just disconnected. And I hated it. I didn't want to be there. I had to be there. I felt my mother sent me there. So that's a general feeling.
Great, thank you. Thank you very much indeed. Okay, so if you look at the cards, look at all of the cards, Susan, if you want, but probably, that set of red cards might be the ones that are relevant for you. Which of those cards are you connecting to that feel like you when you were age 4, alone, disconnected, and hating nursery school?
The ones that jump at me are lonely. Left out isn't quite the right way I felt, but it's close. It's close.
Yes.
Left out. Scared.
Yes.
And And oh, sad. Oh, I had a lot of them. Sad. And I don't really remember feeling angry, but obviously when I was talking about it, I mean, that's what I said, was I was angry about it. So I don't have that really specific feeling. It's more the sad, lonely, scared feeling.
Okay. So are you choosing angry or not?
Well, yes, let's put it in there.
Right, okay. So what's important is don't rush anybody. They're considering, they're considering. And you let them consider. And if it's a child, and is there anything else? And we can make a card for you if we haven't got the one that you need. So that's quite a selection there, Susan. Yes. And when you look at those cards that are above there, the yellow cards, where did that happen? All that lonely, scared, and left out.
Well, it happened in the nursery school, wherever that was.
Okay. So should we pick up the school?
The school, yeah.
All right. So we can call that nursery school. And that left out, that's not quite right. Is there a better word for that?
Well, nothing really comes to mind about it. It is kind of left out, but it's not exactly left out. I was disconnected from my family because I was in school and my mother and my father was working, I assume. My mother and my younger brother were home. So it was kind of like disconnected from them or left out from them.
All right. So, yeah. Okay. And what's really important is use the words that the child is using. Don't correct their grammar. Don't try and make it bigger, smaller. Use their words. When you use their words and you give them back to them, they know that they're being listened to and they think you're amazing. So I'm going to take that left out card and I'm going to rechristen it disconnected.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
From my family.
Yeah. And isn't that interesting? So disconnected from her family, but she was angry at her mother for sending her there. Just shows you how screwed up we get, right? All right, so where do you feel that in your body, Susan? And it might be in more than one place.
I feel it in my upper back. My upper back.
What does that feel like?
It just feels tense, kind of knotted up, or it feels like the energy stuck there.
And on a scale of 0 to 10, what would you say it feels like?
I'd say maybe an 8.
Okay. Quite a lot. Anywhere else?
A little bit in my solar plexus area, a little bit, not so much. Maybe a 4.
Okay. And what does that feel like?
It just feels like a blob, not a heavy blob, but just a minor blob.
A blob. Does that blob have a color?
Have a color. Does it have a color? Well, yellow jumps into my mind.
Okay. All right. So you can see she's totally connected to it. And we're going back to age 4. So it's been kicking around there for some time. So let me just ask you. When you were 4, did you believe in magic, Susan?
You know, basically, I didn't have any experience of magic when
Do
I
you
was
believe?
4.
Do you believe in it now?
I believe in it now, yes.
All right. Okay. So we just happen to have some special stones here that are actually really, really good at releasing tension and knots in the body. But when you were 4, what do you think you would wanted to do with those feelings of lonely and sad, disconnected? What do you think would be a good thing to do with them?
Throw them away.
Anywhere in particular?
The garbage can.
Okay, all right. Would you like to do that now?
Yes.
Okay, you do it. All right. So, which of these 2 stones do you think is the best at throwing things away into a garbage can?
Purple.
All right. Okay. Now you might all want to just pick up your stones and just go with us and just see what you get out of it. All right. So just follow me, Susan. I'm Susan,
I'm Susan.
and I'm going back to the age of 3 or 4,
I'm going back to the age of 3 or 4,
where I hated nursery school,
where I hated nursery school.
was disconnected from my family,
I was disconnected from my family.
sad and lonely,
Sad and lonely
and scared,
and scared
and angry at my mother
and angry at my mother.
because she sent me there.
She sent me there.
I'm going to gather all of this together
I'm going to gather all of this together
right now
right now
and throw it in the
and
garbage
throw it
can.
in the garbage can.
I'm going to put
Get
the
rid of
lid,
it.
yeah, put the lid on hard and tight.
Put the lid on hard and tight
So it can't come out again.
so it can't come out again.
Now,
Now,
what did you feel?
I felt my body shifting, like my muscles loosening up, I guess you'd say. I guess I'd say.
All right. So just check out when they did something good with their magic stone or their special stone, and then they can start throwing the cards away. So just check in, please, Susan, with how those feelings are, if they've changed in your body. And in your upper back, it felt tense, like knotted energy, and it was about an 8. What does it feel like now?
It's still pretty high. It's probably about a 6, but it feels more relaxed. My body, my
Okay,
muscles feel more relaxed.
all right, good. And the solar plexus, that felt like a yellow blob, and it was a
Yeah.
4.
Yeah, that's gone. I don't feel it at all anymore.
Okay, so like a 0.
Yeah, 0. Yeah,
Fabulous.
yeah.
Good work. Okay, dokie. So have a look at the cards that you've got in front of you,
Mm-hmm.
and just tell me, are there any of those cards that you can throw back? Which ones do you think you really threw in the garbage can? And which ones are waiting to go?
Okay. I think I can put left out back and lonely back. I think they're still the scared, sad, and angry, some of that.
Right, okay. And when you look at hating nursery school,
Uh-huh.
do you still feel connected to hating nursery school?
I feel more connected to hating my mother.
All right, so now we have it. So,
Because she sent me there.
which one is she?
Hmm. Well, let me get my card. Hang on. Well, she's kind of a combination of these two big ones. You know,
Right.
I mean, yeah. If you see this expression on this face, that's maybe more.
Disapproving.
Just with her eyebrows down, just kind of, yeah.
Okay, all right. And that's why one of the numbers didn't go down, because it was about hating her mother rather than the nursery school. So what do you want to do with that, Susan?
Well, I'd like it to leave for sure.
Like it to leave?
Yes.
Is there something specific? Would you like to?
Well, I mean, I'll just tell you what comes to my mind is I'd like help with it. Maybe the magic card or something. Maybe
All right.
helping. It.
Okay.
I mean, that's just
So what I would
mind.
have done, is Susan's brought a new aspect has come up. Okay. I would have done another release, which would have been on scared, sad, angry, but connected to her mother. Okay, that's what I would have done. Because the game, and kids know the game very fast. So let's bring the magic, Susan, and see what happens. All right. What kind of magic?
Ooh, what kind of magic? I don't know. Do you have some suggestions?
Well, Merlin the magician's pretty good at magic, so why don't we leave it to him, because he'll know what to do.
Okay.
All right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so let's do this. I'm Susan.
I'm Susan.
And I'm going back
I'm going back
to hating nursery school.
to hating nursery school.
But it was really my mother I hated
But it's really my mother I hated
for sending me there.
for sending me there.
How would you like to do some forgiveness here?
Yes, exactly.
I forgive my mother
I forgive my mother
for sending me there.
for sending me there.
And I'm going to get the magic
And I'm going to get the magic.
and give it to Merlin,
Give it to Merlin
because he knows what to do
because he knows what to do
with the sad, angry, and scared.
with the sad, angry, and scared.
So pick up your card, Susan. You ready?
Yeah.
Throw in the magic. Now! How does that feel?
Good. Good.
Okay. Great if you're playing with a child, because normally you'd be on the floor, yoga mats, that kind of stuff, so you can really give a good throw. So let's check in, see what happens, Susan. Your upper back, that dropped from an 8 to a 6. How does it feel now?
Well, it's moved a little bit, so I don't feel it up there at all. I feel a little bit lower down in my back, but maybe a 2.
Okay, brilliant. So the magic happens. Woohoo! All right. So now, look at those cards. And which ones of those cards can you pass over to Merlin? Scared, sad. Here's your mum.
I'm going to pass them all over to Merlin like this with him on top.
All right. Okay. All right. So we're putting magic on top of all of those.
Yeah.
Right. So now I'm going to ask you another question.
Okay.
Cards over the right. Just tell me, for that remaining 2 that you've got in your upper body, you need.
It jumps out, family, and maybe a little bit of be listened to and supported.
Okay.
But maybe mostly family.
All right. And for you to let that go now, who do you need the support from?
My mother.
All right. Is she here to do that?
Is she here to do that right now? You mean? Well,
No, I mean, is she alive?
no, she's not alive, but she's there.
So do you think if she knew that this is what you needed, she would be able to give that to you?
I don't know. She was so overwhelmed, with my brother.
No, I'm speaking. Okay,
If
so
she
she
could
was
have at that
overwhelmed, but would
Now-
she have
now?
let- Yes.
Now?
Yes.
I think she could do it now.
Okay. So is that going to be okay for you?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. And do you need her to listen to you?
Yeah. I think
All right.
now she listens to me.
All right. Okay, so let's do this. So now what we're changing from the emotions, we're changing to the feeling in her body. And that was the remaining 2 in her upper body. Okay. And Susan,
And Susan,
I'm going back to the age of 4,
I'm going back to the age of 4,
when I hated nursery school
when I hated nursery school,
and I hated my mum
hated my mother
for sending me there.
for sending me there.
It happened.
It happened.
It's over.
It's over.
I'm okay.
I'm okay.
So I'm letting that go.
So I'm letting that go.
And I'm opening myself
I'm open myself
to receive the support,
to receive the support,
the listen to,
to listen to,
and all that
and all that good family stuff
that I needed back then.
that I needed back then.
It's time
It's time
to allow this into my body. To
to allow this into my body.
now.
To allow this now.
Take a deep breath. Yeah.
Oh, I feel still a little bit in my lower back. I'd say maybe half or a 1, maybe a 1.
All
But
right.
mostly it's gone.
All right. Now, sometimes a physical thing can take a while to work itself out because it's if of course in a session
I feel special.
Okay. Okay. Got it. Thank you for that. Your evil eyes.
So, I'm in peripheral vision, you know me. So I'm just wondering, what is that okay? Is there something else I should do with that? Is it a little bit like the kind of multiple emotions? Should there just be kind of we end up bringing it down to one, or is it okay to have multiple places? I wasn't quite sure what to do with that.
So what those cards are mainly for, the yellow cards, is to help people to access more of what's bothering them. Where did it happen? Well, it happened at home and it happened at school, and it's about bullying and stuff. So at the end of the the release, and you ask the person, you know, so which cards do you want to let go of? They're probably going to focus on letting go of the emotions. And you can sort of say, well, okay, so how do you feel about this bullying card? Can we let that go? You know, or the home. What I tend to do now, Sarah, with the home and school is, it's like they serve their purpose.
Yeah.
And they're kind of done. But if you feel that the person is very detailed, then they might be remembering that, and just ask them, so what, you know, are you finished with that? Or they might say, well, yeah, I feel good about school now, so I can let that go.
Okay. Yeah, no, I like that. You know, how do you feel about that now? So that's great, because it just gets them back into that.
Yeah.
To just get that new perspective on where it was and what happened. Okay, yeah, thank you.
Exactly. Yes. Oh, here's Robin back. I'm recording this, Robin, I think.
Yeah,
Mike.
Yeah,
Yes.
I just wanted to share something I noticed when I was working with Gillian, and this is something that you asked, Jazz, when you jumped in and you said, write that down. You know, you said, write that down. And when I was writing down the language that was being used, something interesting I noticed happened. I wrote down exactly what she said, and I said, oh, that would be a good one to bring back up when I'm doing the release. And when I said back the exact phrase that she had said, she disagreed with it. She said, well, no, not quite exactly. And she ended up having to go back into the story and try and maybe explain it more clearly. But it was interesting, because whatever I said back wasn't agreed with then at the release stage, you know.
You know, it's possible that the release had actually left, you know, had cleared that, so it no longer felt like it was accurate or appropriate.
Yeah.
Or that she recognized it wasn't that. So, you know, that would be, with a child, you're not going to need to go into those details, but with adults, it's a different ball game. And what I noticed with adults is they're, you know, we're very tricky, is that they jump from story to story, and they don't know they're doing it. So you start working on one story, and they're like, yeah, and all of a sudden they've jumped over to age 21 where something else happens. So you need to keep an eye on them. I mean, absolutely, if you want to work with that, but it's to try and keep them channeled rather than jumping from one place to the other, because you'll get very, very confused. You'll be trying to piece things together, but they will have jumped to a different period in their life.
Yeah, I've seen that happen, actually.
Yeah. So this is something that isn't, you'll get that as you have an experience, as you have experience, and it's up to you what you decide to do with it. If you've got enough time, absolutely do it. But if you haven't got enough time, for whatever reason, or you're not being paid enough, is then just keep them on track and say, well, let's finish this one first, should we?
Well, there's that part of it, but the other part of it was is it correct to reflect the language back? Because maybe in that case, I interrupted the release by putting in the language that they had used, whereas if I had just went with the information that was there besides that, the release would have been done, but I had interrupted it by bringing in her own language.
Bringing in her own language is key. It brought up something, you know, and the fact that she didn't agree with it, didn't like it, whatever, it's bringing up more information. So I don't think you got in the way with it, and I wouldn't let this put you off. So for me, as a therapist, I listen like crazy, and I write down, you know, I write down exactly what's being said, and I give those words back the best that I can. And people think I'm amazing. They think I'm reading their mind, and they don't know that they just said it. But they really relate to it, and they trust me. And they're like, wow, she's really listening to me. Now, if I am having therapy from somebody else, if they change my language, I immediately lose faith in them. I'm like, you're not listening. Or if you are listening, you're not very good at what you do. And I'm out of it. It's like, don't mess with me. I've given my faith and trust to you. You listen, you ask me a question, you listen to what I say, and you hold me safe. And I want to hear, even if I've changed my mind, I want to hear that they've been listening to me and they got my back.
So I always use the phrase, parrot phrase, don't paraphrase.
Yes, she's got all this stuff, hasn't she? All right.
Jess,
So,
interrupt you.
yes.
We're just really need to watch the time. We only
Okay.
have 35 minutes left.
Okay,
With
so
20 minutes for the other group. You need to make me host. I need to start the breakout rooms again. I lost them all. So I'm going to need a minute or two. So if anybody has one more question while I put that together.
Jess, I have a question. During the second release, I was still using I'm releasing this, and I keep saying the name of the game, but then do I need to say the name of the game a few times? Because Colette says you don't need to bring up the name of the game again, because that's the second release. So I just use it once.
Use it once. Once you get, by the time you've done this 3 times, Zyla, we're all trying to be perfect, aren't we? Okay.
Yeah.
And within 3, what I think it was Lucy said, by the time you've done this 3 or 4 times, and get in touch with each other and do a practice. Please do a practice. By the time you've done it 3 or 4 times, you'll be in flow, as Lucy says, and it makes the flow makes sense. So what we're doing, we're putting a lot of information, trying to get it right, where it will flow by itself. And also notice that when you're working with a child might not need to go to every station. They might not need anything. They might be so fast, they're just going to hop from releasing it into the positive stuff. They might not need anything. So you follow the child and where they need to go. And then you might think, I'll just bring them back to that because that feels like a good thing to do. There's no right or wrong. This is the thing with this. It's you play the game. What does the child need? You can't do anything wrong. Only get good results.
When you were playing the game with me, I feel that you were talking to a child. Should I kind of try and do that as well?
When you're talking to an adult.
To an adult, but imagine that you're talking to a child. Because I really feel that you were talking to me when I was a child. It's like amazing.
I've been doing it a bit longer than you, Zyla. Let's just say that. And I don't know what I do half the time. I just do it. Now, what I will say, what is really fascinating is when I'm the client and anybody wants to use me as a guinea pig, I'm here. You can use me. Is I immediately, just half a second, I immediately, without meaning to, go back into the age of that child. And I just start speaking like a 5-year-old, not like blah, 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 but it's like, I'm me.
That mentality, I think that's what I did, yeah.
So it's all part of the game. Just enjoy it. All right, Robin, we're ready. So any questions, any burning questions of maybe what you, any confusion? Well, I think Sarah could be.
Of course, I wasn't straightforward, was I? I couldn't just be a straightforward one for Maria. So apologies, Maria. But
that's the nature of a therapist, right?
But you guys were terrific, though. I mean, it was really magical what happened. Yeah. Sarah and Maria.
Sarah, would you like to share that? Or Susan, would you like to share what you experienced?
I think Susan's probably going to be better because I was just going through it. So Susan, you were kind of witnessing it And it's always interesting when someone's witnessing, because it's always a different kind of perspective. So
Yeah.
I'd like Susan's take, really.
Well, it was really quite amazing because Sarah had this very intense kind of glob in her head and in her body, and it was very, very intense, like a 10 or something like that. And Maria was asking her questions and pursuing it, and following the pattern. And when Maria repeated back to Sarah how she had described it, it totally shifted. I mean, like 180 degrees. I mean, it just totally shifted, and it became very magical and all freeing and all kinds of stuff. So that's just a general thing. But if you'd like to say anything more, Sarah.
It jumped into these.
Yes.
I didn't have to want them, they just were there. I didn't have to ask for them, they just appeared.
Yeah. This will happen more and more. They'll just.
Yeah.
So, Susan, do you think that watching the shift, do you think that was because Maria used Sarah's language?
Yes, I think it was in large part because she used the language, and also Sarah was so ready to shift it. She was so frustrated with this feeling, and then Maria kind of directed with the language, and then it just was like that. It was really magical. Yeah. They both did a great job. Yeah.
I just want to jump in for a quick second to honor the time today. We have about 5 more minutes officially in the training. If anybody needs to leave on time, we completely understand. We will be here a few more minutes, so if anybody has questions and can stick around, that's not a problem. But also, if you feel like you need to go, we would just want to really honor that. Want to say thank you so much for being here today. And also remind everybody that next Sunday on the 2nd at 9:30 your time, we will have another Q&A follow-up call that you're all invited to join. It's going to be from 9:30 for an hour and a half. And really just any kind of questions, anything that comes up is going to be answered there. If you would just let us know. Yes, sir?
Will it be recorded? Because I can't make it. I'm away next weekend.
I was just going to get there. No, it's all good. A good question. So if you can make it, please let us know that you can. And if you're not able to attend and there is any questions that you have that you would like us to address, just send them to us through WhatsApp and we will address them and record it, and that way send it back out. So that way I hope you get all the questions answered that you need.
Just a quick, are you going to combine last week's and this week's into one WhatsApp group now rather than having two? Because I know I'm in both, but right. I'm just wondering, is it worth just having now everyone back together?
Well, we have everybody in Jazz's graduate group.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
So everybody can just use that and send it there.
Okay.
And then last but not least, we just want to let everybody know as well, because of everything, how it unfolded and happened, the up-leveling to level 2. So if anybody is interested in becoming a practitioner, we extend our offer to next weekend after the Q&A. So the same price. So if you're interested in becoming a practitioner and going to level 2, it's an extra 323 euros, and that offer stands until next week. I think that's all what I wanted to say just now.
And when would that level 2 training take place?
So that training is not bound by a date.
Okay.
So the level 2 training actually is arranged with Jazz personally. So there is Jazz can actually explain it better than me, but there is case studies to be submitted, and then Jazz is going to look at them, comes back to you. Then there is a one-on-one training with Jazz, and So it's a lot more flexible than this.
We envisage what we will do is we will pair you up, if you know, in twos, and as a twosome, you will probably be able to complete in about 10 weeks, Lucy. You know, obviously, you know, it's not bound like that, but you'll start and you'll submit 3 case studies to me, and I will evaluate those and send them back to you. Not to find fault, but is to see what you've remembered, what you've not, So all to empower you. And then you'll send another 3 back. Within that, there'll be a live training, which is showing you how to work as surrogate for a child, or to help a parent. Well, surrogate to work as a surrogate for a child. Anybody can do it, it's not difficult, but you need to be past the first level you need to be a bit out of your way and to have more confidence in yourself and the system to be able to do that. And so it is, it's more of a guidance, coaching kind of thing, rather than showing up and learning like this. So, and you would do it with a coaching buddy, or you would do it with me if there's an odd number.
How do you write up the case studies? Because obviously if I was to work with someone online, could I just record it and just send you the recording to watch, or would you want, is there a particular set of questions?
Too time consuming, but what I do is I've got a case study document, which for anybody that's interested, I'll send it to you. And in fact, it might even be on the training thing, but I will send it to you because the case study, it's a great thing to have even now.
Yeah.
So it makes sure that you are following all the steps, or you're completing, and it will get you thinking more about what you've done, or what you could have done, or where any problems arise. So I'll check the training video, and if it's not on there, I'm sure it is, but if it's not on there, I will make sure that you all get a copy of that.
Is that the one that you use for the fast tracks for kids?
Yeah, I've rebranded it, and I brought in the magic card and stuff like that. So okay. I will make sure that you all, not complicated.
Yeah, it's there, Jazz. It's in the training videos.
I'm amazing. So amazing. Round of applause for Jazz. Come on. It was Sarah that said, "You've got to have a training video." Like, oh God, no. Anyway, I'm like, oh, Sarah. And so, and then I was like, and I'm proud of it now.
So last but not least, really want to say thank you for Susan for being the surrogate today for our training. Want to thank Sarah for organizing all of this. And then just want to really thank every single one for being part of this, for showing up and just playing the game so wonderfully. And also the engagement in the groups. It's really beautiful to see what is coming out of this and what's already shifting and happening. And yes, and also I love the other one with the internet. It's actually a really beautiful, don't even need a graphic designer for it. So yes, thank you for everybody for being here, and thank you, Jazz, for another wonderful training.
Thank you. I think we're a bit more focused this week. So if you can practice between now and next week, practice on yourself. On that training video, you'll see me doing sessions on myself. You'll see Amy doing a session on herself. It's super easy. And if you can, pair up with somebody here or anybody else, what I suggest, don't work with children immediately, because you don't have the experience yet, and they will tell you, good, and you don't want that. So wait till it's done. But
I just want to share something about my 10-year-old. So when these arrived, he immediately said, I want a set for myself and I want to keep them by my bed. And every day I want to choose a card that I need. So just to let you know, and he's desperate to get his hands on my cards. So I said, once I'd done this, I said, you can have my cards. I said, but we're going to share them. So it may be something to look at as doing just a little set for kids, even just like, like a playing card set that they can just use themselves, just as an idea, because I was like, I don't want to give him my cards, but anyway, I will. I'm not that mean.
And I don't know if I've ever mentioned this, there was somebody, Jean, who's another Magical You person in KL. She put like a washing line up, with pegs for one of her kids, and then choose a card a night and then pop them back up there. It's endless. What you're going to do with this is endless. I'm in awe. Does anybody have any questions for Susan about her experience before we sign off? Any questions about anything or what she experienced?
Only one about doing groups of children. I saw her video of her doing the groups of children. Yeah. When you do a group, Susan, do you have a group name of the game so that everybody's doing the same thing?
Yes, how I've done it actually is it's been quite focused. And so there is already a project that we're working on, and I'm doing the game to get them ready for that project. And so we have a name of the game, but I don't really do the game with them, the whole game. I mean, I take pieces of it. So right. I might do a few releases at the beginning, but then I focus on how do you want to feel, so that because the project is to empower them.
Yeah.
So that's how I've been doing it. Yeah, and they love it. They love it. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thanks.
I worked with a group of I call them orphans. Some of them had parents, but they didn't see them, and some of the parents have died. They're Burmese, and they're living here in Thailand without papers. So they are stateless. They don't have anything, and they are scared all the time of being picked up by the police, etc., etc. And when I started to go there as an experiment, it's called the School of Hope, and there's about 9 or 11 kids there, and they had not very much confidence. They didn't have homes. They didn't have friends at the school where they went to because they felt awful, and most of them didn't speak very much English at all, and I couldn't talk to them. So one of the boys, Alex, he was quite out there, and he was like the translator for the group. And within a month, I would go every Saturday with another lady, and we would play the game. At first, they played the game just one-on-one with me, with a friend watching, like helping them for security. Within 4 weeks, I'd get there on a Saturday, and they're all sat around this big table waiting for me to play the game. And it was very limited because their understanding was limited. They're not sophisticated. But what happened was they made friends. From having no friends, they had friends. They had a best friend. They had confidence. They started to enter competitions. And all of a sudden they had a life. They still had no papers. They still had no parents. But their energy had changed like crazy. And they sat there waiting every Saturday for me to show up so they could play the game. And they would all be there, a bit like in Susan's group. And they're all doing this, and half of them didn't know what they were talking about. Everything shifted. It was mind-blowing. Yeah. All right, gang. So I'm going to stay here for 5 minutes. I'll see you next week, hopefully. Sarah, thanks again. Robin, amazing. Susan, thank you. And
Yeah.
5 minutes in case anybody wants to have a quick chat.
Yeah, it was great. I had a great time being a child. Thanks.
Thanks, Susie. Yes.
Back to Sarah's point, Jess, about the cards. I know they come with the program, but do they also come on their own?
Great point. So I don't like to sell the cards by themselves because I want to make sure they get used. And I think to sell them, say I sold the cards to someone like Sarah with the training video, she totally get it. It seems very, very simple, but there's a lot more to it than we first think. And so it's important for me to make sure that the cards go where they're going to get used and they don't get a bad reputation because they're sitting on somebody's shelf and they say, well, I wasted my money, and that could happen. So, but we'll be putting things in place where you can buy the cards, and we would need to look at that a little bit down the road, Zyla. If you wanted another set for yourself, or you became a therapist and you needed, one set here and one set there, let's look at that. We would, at this point, we would judge it individually until we get more clear of who wants the cards and why they want them.
Understand? Yeah.
I'm very much somebody I'm not a control freak at all, but I like my mission is to keep this and my fast track that I do as pure as possible. That way it can be simple and it doesn't get messed with. And if I give it to people without, they'll mess with it anyway, but I try to limit the amount that they can mess with it by, I try to limit the amount they can mess with it by keeping the trainings very simple, very clean, very clear. And that way I think we all get a lot out of it.
Presumably, in terms of the training videos, you've sent it to us because I haven't had a chance to look at it. Did you send it just your email, is it?
For the level 2?
Oh no, the training videos for level 1, you've sent it already, right?
Yes. If you haven't got the link, let me know and I'll send it to you again. But if you got the email, it's on there. But happy to send it to you again, Zyla, if you. And do watch it because there's so much information. There's a Q&A section there, which might provoke more questions even. But it's pretty good, even if I say so myself.
It's been brilliant. Thank you very much.
You've been brilliant. You're amazing.
I'm just so proud to see so many of the people that I've been a little part of their journey on these calls, and that I knew whoever was going to sign up, it was the right people and it was the right groups to come together. And I'm very honored really to have been part of this. And thank you, Jazz, for creating such an incredible game. I was blown away by it as soon as I saw it and wanted to share that information. And I will continue to share this information with as many people as I can to bring them on board, because I think now, especially looking at, emotional stress and psychological issues have risen by 70% in children because of COVID-19. And I just feel like, as horrific as COVID-19 is, I think it is opening up people's eyes who need to see this, that children's emotional well-being is so important. But to have this wonderful little box of magic, and to be able to help kids. And I'm just seeing it with my own son, and he has said he wants to come back and do it again with you. So he was like, well, one session's not going to get rid of everything, because he's 10 and he obviously runs rings around me. He was so fun. I just want to share, we're in the car afterwards. He'd done his little video for you, but in the car afterwards, because we're not looking at each other, so it always helps. And I just said, so what do you really think? I said, we're not on camera, you're not talking to Jazz now. And he just went, it was amazing, really. And he went, it was kind of better from what you do with me. He said, but I get that probably other people's kids work better with you than me because I'm your kid. Just
since COVID, we're all changing, aren't we? And we're all more open to doing this Zoom thing and getting more creative and helping kids. I work in Hong Kong, well, I used to go there 2 or 3 times a year, and that's been stopped now, of course. But what they're doing now, they're offering magical use sessions to the kids in Hong Kong because they've had COVID restrictions longer than us. And so the owner of the center where I work, she's like, wow, let's get it out. You know, and so people are much more open to using Zoom and getting more creative around it. So it's opening up lots and lots and lots. And as I said at the beginning, I have no doubt that you, because you've all got kids and you're working in the area of kids, are going to find ways to use it that I've not even dreamt of. And I can't wait.
And Jess, I would like to talk about this for a quick second for the ones that haven't been part of it last week. So I just want to let know, especially Jillian, Sila, and Sarah, these stones are made here in Bali by a Balinese man who really understood what this is all about. So he has created a way to put magic into the stones by really putting intention before he starts with each of these batches. Like, they're all handmade, they're all really, we looked hard to find somebody to make these. But I also want to let you guys all know that by us purchasing these stones, we helped a lot of families that are really struggling right now in Bali, not having food, not having anything. And because tourism is down, and here communities really help each other still. So when we purchased them, he told me that not just his family, but several other families can now have food for the next few months. And so there's a lot of feel-good story behind it, and I just wanted to share that as well. But really the magic, the first time we saw them, we knew these stones work. And what is so beautiful about them is that when kids play with them, they don't break easily. They are really something that are, they're robust and they're relatable in their ways. So I just wanted to share that part.